here tonight. I'd ask that you would please rise as Pastor Josh Benner leads us in our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the leaders of our community, for the first responders, and for those on the council. Lord, I pray for them. I pray for this meeting this evening, and I pray for the work that they are doing in this community and for our town of Fergus Falls, Lord. And we thank you so much that we have this wonderful community to share and to live in, Lord. And we thank you for the many blessings you give to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's Monday, March 19th, 2018, 5:30, and I'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Fish.
Here.
Rachel.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Ferguson is absent. Speedo.
Here.
Hicks.
Yeah.
Alford.
Here. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I will ask our city administrator if there are any additions or corrections to the agenda.
There aren't.
If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as posted. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Jim. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have some special guests with us tonight. One special four-legged guest named Mandy is getting a little anxious, so we're going to change the order of the agenda around just a little bit, and we're going to go to item number F, which is petitions and communications. We have a special life-saving award ceremony this evening. I'd please like to turn it over to our Chief of Public Safety, Kyle Bergeron.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. For a change, I get to stand up here and talk about something positive. It's a pretty big deal for me. And this is a pretty special evening. I know so often people, especially in this room at this podium, come up and they want to talk about what defines Fergus Falls, what things make Fergus Falls so great. And I think at times we forget about it's really the people of Fergus Falls that make it the best place to live. That separates Fergus Falls from any other community. And tonight's story, I think, best portrays that with these 5 individuals. So I'd ask them to stand. We have Officer Luke Delaney, Sergeant Jeff Horman, Anita Riley, Chris Johnson, and his wife Lisa Johnson. And on January 21st, of this year, our other special guest, Mandy, was out on the ice on the channel by Hood Lake and fell through. And like any good pet owner, Anita went out on the ice to the aid of Mandy. And soon she found herself to be a victim that she too had fallen through the ice. And Chris and Lisa Johnson live across the channel from Anita. They saw their neighbor in distress. They immediately called 911, and then they jumped into action, getting some ropes, trying to come to the aid of both Anita and Mandy. I think Chris, his comments were, he was amazed at how quickly the officers showed up. He said he was in the garage trying to find a rope, and he was actually startled that one of the officers was already on the scene looking for information. I think when we went back into our dispatch log, Jeff Foreman had arrived on scene within 2 minutes of the 911 call. Luke Delaney showed up a short time later and deployed a rope to Anita, and according to Chris again, threw the rope within about 2 inches of Anita's hands. They were able to get Anita out of the ice. I believe Lisa was able to get Mandy out of the water as well. So it is for these actions tonight that we would like to award Chris and Lisa Johnson the Citizens Award for their actions in rendering aid to a resident who had fallen through the ice, and also to award the life-saving bar of the Fergus Falls Police Department to both Sergeant Jeff Horman and Officer Luke Delaney. And as I said, the family and friends, if you want to join us up in the lobby of the council chambers and then get some photos out there. I'll lead you.
Thanks, Chief. You know, there's so many great things about Fergus, but I'll tell you one thing. Every day our Fergus Falls Police Department makes us proud, so thanks, you guys. Under public hearings this evening, we have a final cost hearing for Public Improvement 6069, the 2017 Miss Sidewalk Improvement Program, and I will call on Brian Yavaro, our city engineer.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Before you is the public final cost hearing for Public Improvement 6069, 2017 Sidewalk Driveway Improvement Project. This is a 100% petition project by city residents. It's an annual basis that the city levies funds to cover a portion of the share of this project. The location, this is miscellaneous areas throughout the city. As noted, it's a 100% petition project by the homeowners. We're having the hearing date, which is today, March 19th. The interest rate is 4.5% for any of the assessed. The years are variable. That's dependent on the schedule that's outlined in the second portion of your project based on the term of the assessment. Due dates for one, if adopted, is May 1st, 2018. And the final cost for the total improvement is $52,521.59. Of this amount, $18,431.22 is proposed to be assessed over 10 assessment rolls that will be finalized if adopted by this council. I have received, since the publication, mail notices were sent out, and also the publication of the newspaper indicating this final cost hearing. I received one inquiry from one of the petitioners, and that was primarily inquiry in regards to a senior citizen handicap deferral policy. We had, they were requesting information and applicability and criteria that meets per resolution 222-2006. Other than that, I have not heard any other correspondence or received. So at this time, I was requesting if you open the public hearing for this improvement project.
Thank you, Brian. With that, I will open the hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this issue, please step to the lectern and state your name. See no one, I will close the hearing. I'll bring it back to the council. If there's any questions for Brian, if not, I would entertain a resolution.
I'll make it. Yep.
Thank you, Rod. Second by Brent. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hooker.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Effort.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Thank you,
Thank you.
Brian. Next item on the agenda is under awarding of bids. We will need a resolution approving a bid for the Bigwood Event Center carpeting, and I'll call on our Public Works Director, Guy Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. As detailed in the memo that you got for this meeting, the Bigwood Event Center, it's about 18 years old, and there hadn't been any major improvements done to the facility in that time. So last year, we began a facelift of the building. That includes the reception area, all the way to the far end of the hallway, not including the carpeting in the main ballrooms, as the manager calls it. So we took down all the wallpaper that was falling off the walls, repaired the walls, and recarpeted the hallways, and replaced some of the delaminating woodwork. We had not planned on replacing the carpet in the ballrooms, but now looking at the rest of the project and seeing how nice it is, it's almost a shame to not do those rooms. And so what I'm requesting is that you would award the carpet project to Sealands Abbey Flooring Center in the amount of $35,995. That will complete the facelift to the main hallway and the ballrooms. There would be 2 rooms left to do, which would probably undertake next winter. Be the Oxley room and the other room. Can't think of that one. But so that's my recommendation, is that you award this carpet project to Sealands. The funds right now in the Big Wood Event Center fund is $248,242.83, and those funds are accumulated based on activity out there, room sales or room rental and food and beverage sales.
Thank you, Guy. Does anyone on the council have questions for Guy?
I'll make them, Your Honor.
Thank you, Anthony.
One second.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Pepper.
Yes. That resolution is approved. There is no open forum this evening. Under the consent agenda, there's a copy in the packet. There's also a copy on the board. And I would ask if anyone on the council has any of the items they'd like to speak to individually. If not, I would entertain a resolution approving the consent agenda as presented. Thank you, Brent. Scott, second. Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Pepper.
Yes. That resolution is approved. Under ordinance and resolutions, item number 1, we'll need a resolution providing for the competitive negotiated sale of $1.2 million general obligation disposable system revenue bond series 2018A. And we have Doug Green here this evening, but I will call on Bill Summer to introduce Doug.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Honor. We have Doug Green, our municipal advisor with Springstead Incorporated, with us tonight. As you recall, we're doing a landfill project. We did accept bids on that project. When did we accept those, Brian? It's been a month or 2 ago, probably somewhere in that realm. So, and we had said at that time, well, we get that project going, we're going to have to finance that project, and that's what we're starting off tonight. We're doing a couple things out there. One is, the major construction of the new demolition cell, and then also we're closing the existing cells that are just about full. We are not bonding for the amounts that we are closing those existing cells because we've been putting money aside to do that, so we're going to pay for cash with that portion. But we are going to finance these long-term improvements that are going to last for some of it, the remaining 60 to 70 years of the landfill. So with that, I'll turn it over to Doug Green, and he can go through our financing package.
All right, thank you, Bill. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and Doug Green, Springstead. It's always a pleasure to be here. This evening, I'll be briefly walking you through this document, which I believe is in the packet.
It's in the packet, yep.
It's called, heading is City of Fergus Falls Recommendation for Bond Issuance. Again, the purpose of this meeting tonight, and this action that you're taking tonight, is to authorize the bond sale. We obviously haven't taken bids yet. You're just authorizing Springstead and staff to move forward with the process and lay out the timeline. Just make sure that everyone is on the same page. I'll briefly walk through some of the key points in this document. The key events tonight, again, we're setting the date and time of sale. Over the next 2 weeks, we'll be finalizing the official statement. That's the prospectus that goes out to potential purchasers and bondholders. And we'll be undertaking a credit rating call with Moody's as well. We'll do some preparing for that, and that will take place the week of April 2nd. On the morning of April 16th, we'll take bids. I'll say, because this is relatively small, 1.2 million over financing over 20 years, because the life of the asset's even longer, we probably can't expect too many bids. It's just not very marketable to some of the larger underwriters. However, the city's strong credit rating and everything, there's some consistent bidders out there, and we'll get good market rate bids. And if they're not market rate bids, we'll reject them and start over. We do always have that luxury. And then we'll bring it to your consideration at the council meeting that night on April 16th. And then it takes about a month to have all the documents closed, and then the bond proceeds are wired to the city. As I'm moving down the list, the rating, as I mentioned, the city is currently rated AA3, which is very strong. Anything AA category is very strong. And so I would not expect anything to change there. Looking at the market, municipal market's always kind of boring. It doesn't move as much as the stock market, but you probably know everything's been a little bit more volatile lately. This is a look at the main municipal bond index. It's kind of like the Dow Jones of the municipal bond index. And so it's something everyone looks to, just to look at the general levels of where interest rates are. And you can see over the past 5 years, we're really kind of right there in the middle. Not near the top back in 2013, and not near the bottom in the summer of 16 either. So kind of right there in the middle. Turning the page, just very quickly, post-issuance compliance with every bond issue. The city will have, for the life of the bonds, ongoing post-issuance compliance responsibilities. That will primarily, in this case, mean providing bondholders information about the city. Because they own paper of the city, they want to know what's going on here. So that's primarily that piece. The bottom bullet, the authority, every time the city issues bonds, you have to have statutory authority to do so. And in this case, it's under Chapter 115, and that authorizes cities to borrow for, again, these types of landfill projects. And it outlines what projects you can bond for and the process. And in this case, it's a pretty straightforward process. There are no public hearings or anything like that. So it is pretty straightforward. On the next page, I certainly won't go through this table of numbers, but we'll be looking at, and I believe Bill has mentioned you've had conversations about the rates that are charged out there. And while these will be general obligation bonds backed by the full faith and credit of the city, which means if revenues aren't sufficient, you'll raise property taxes, but of course that's certainly not expected. That these bonds will be paid for 100% with revenues in the city's waste management fund. And this is a historical perspective, but what's more important is Bill's projections moving forward. And so I do believe that there will probably be rate increases in that demolition line item because of this project, which is not surprising. Then moving to, I believe, just I'll point out one piece with the prepayment provisions. We will have the option to prepay these or restructure them beginning in 2025. So if something does change, if you build up a surplus in that fund and want to pay these off early or restructure them, shorten them, or something, you will have that option in a relatively short amount of time. Then I will just turn to the last page and point out the estimated debt service. For now, looking at current market interest rates, I would imagine these were put together at the beginning about a week ago. And so, we're looking at interest rates anywhere between 2% up to around 4%, looking around $85,000 per year. And that's what the future rate increases will be based on. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Doug. Council, any questions for Doug?
Pretty straightforward.
I would entertain a resolution. authorizing, providing for the competitive negotiated sale of the $1.2 million bond. Rob? Thank you, Rob.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rufford.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
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 That resolution is approved. Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a $7,500 community planning grant from West Central Initiative for a bicycle and pedestrian master plan contingent upon matching funds from the city being available, and I would call on Councilmember Rod Speedo to
Thank you, Your Honor.
address
Yeah. We have Wayne Hurley here who can just address an issue from the WCI as he comes to the podium. Council members, I'd like you to just consider that this request ties in to our larger planning processes that are intersecting right now. The Glacial Edge Trail, which is a pedestrian and bicycle trail. The larger question of how we go about structuring our routes around Fergus, which is, I believe, we're late on at this point. The bicycle and pedestrian wanted to do this earlier, but we felt they should wait. So it ties in well timing-wise. And in the letter that I sent, we realize this is not budgeted for this year in the city, not intending that, but that I understood from Mr. Hurley that this was a special, a grant specific to us, and that it could be used, and that could be secured, and then we could budget for that in next year's budgeting proposal. So that's, with that, I just wanted Mr. Hurley to answer one of the questions that was raised at the last meeting about the availability of the funds and securing them at this point. So if you could address
Sure.
that.
Thank you, Your Honor, and our council members. Mr. Speedall is correct. The grant is an invitation-only grant opportunity from West Central Initiative. The program is actually sunsetting this year at the end of June, and so those funds would need to be expended to the city by that time. They don't need to be expended by the city by the end of June of 2018, but we need to distribute the funds to the city from West Central Initiative by that time.
Do you have any other funds you need to get rid of?
We could probably find something. Yeah. I'm not the grants person, so I could say that all day long.
Any questions for either Mr. Hurley or Mr. Speedo? Yes, Scott.
I got probably for Andrew or Brian. What's the initial the cost going to be for the plan? Is it going to be the 15,000, or is it going to be could exceed that? And then if we go through the plan, what's that going to overrun onto the street projects when we do these street projects? Because I'm sure that's going to be part of the plan also. Is there a rough estimate or not? What it's going to add to our street projects? Any ideas? Or is it going to be a added cost? Let's put it that way.
We haven't got to that level yet to actually do that solicitation yet. It depends on the scope of the plan and everything, citywide and everything, so. With the plan, it just gives us better direction for what type of treatment we want on our network, and then we can arrive at those costs. But we are not at that level yet.
So the plan is going to be $15,000 plan, or is it this plan could cost more than that? I guess that's probably the biggest question. Okay, is there anybody that knows that?
We haven't got the proposals, but we have a lot of information existing anyways to help with that, but that's not been determined yet.
And the reason I had some phone calls about this after the Wednesday meeting. Somebody must have watched it on TV. I was not there. But they said you just dangle some money out in front of you and you just can't wait to grab it, and then doesn't know how much it's going to cost us after we take that money. And we're already in one of them situations as a council already, so.
Question to that point, is this a required 50% match? Is it required?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
And just to speak, I mean, not to your question about the streets improvements down the road, I think I understand where you're going with that.
How much it's going to increase the cost?
But whether or not we have a plan, that doesn't mean necessarily that the particular street project is going to.
We don't have to follow that plan as well. Do we have to follow that plan once you put it in place, or we just only when we want to? Is that how it works, or? That's the question I'm asking.
We vote on every individual project, it would seem to me. And it would seem to me that by doing a master plan project, we're not going to expend dollars on each particular project as we go along to engineer these things. So
I just wanted to that was the questions asked. I said I'd bring it up, so.
Sure, good question.
Yeah, to Councilmember Rachel's point, I mean,
I wouldn't want the city to be bound to a plan. But I think that having a plan is a great idea. You know, in the past, the sentiment has been expressed here that, you know, this group comes with this request and then with this request and then with this request. I would like to see them all come at once. It's a great opportunity. We do have the cost matching. And like I said at the last committee, the whole meeting, you know, this plan is hopefully gonna make bicycling and other outdoor activities safer. And if as a result of this plan, it prevents one person from getting injured, hit, killed, whatever, it's paid for itself, I'm all for it.
And I do see in the resolution that it's contingent upon the matching funds from the city being available, so I would assume that we would need to, as a council, approve those funds in next year's budgets in order to actually expend the plan. Is that accurate? So I think there's that too. So this resolution would just be presenting to West Central the application. Is that correct, Rod?
Yeah, yep. And one other, Your Honor, just to, again, to the point, I do believe there's two separate parts. I appreciate Councilman Rachel's concern for the budget. In the long run, however, it may cost you more if you don't plan, because the county is already planning. They have put into effect, for the first time ever, and most of you know this, a trail plan for the county. Now, we're the seat of Otter Tail County, and if we don't have a plan for our city, while the county is trying to hook up to the northeast and the southeast, then we're going to be actually spending more money in the end if we don't have a plan. So I believe that the steps are necessary, but to the point, we don't have to commit to that plan until we vote on it. But we do need to look at what's available, I think. That's why it's coming now. And I guess Councilman Hicks had brought up earlier too in another meeting that, you know, if we have 50% funding for a project, we should start seriously looking at some of these things. And now if we had no funding, it'd be another question, just to bring this up. But this is a great opportunity, I believe, to do the right planning at the right time. So I'm just totally in favor of this. I don't think it's, yeah. And I'll introduce that.
Is that
Yeah.
sound like a resolution? Yes,
Yep.
okay, that's a resolution.
Second?
Second by Tom. Now, any further discussion by the council? Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Alpert.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Rod.
Thanks, Mike.
Tonight, we have claims in the amount of $1,021,122.35. And if we have any questions about that, we will direct them to our Finance Director, Bill Sonmore.
I'll offer, Your Honor.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second to
second,
that?
Your Honor.
resolution? Thank you, Jim. Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Alpert.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. There are no board committee department reports. There are no reports from staff and administrative officers. I do not believe there's any old or unfinished business, and we do not have any new business at this time. So unless there's anything else to come before the council, we will adjourn to a closed meeting as permitted by the attorney-client privileges to discuss an active or threatened litigation matter. And then we will also be discussing a letter of intent for portions of the Fergus Falls Regional Treatment Center. It is anticipated that we will reconvene this meeting. So having heard the concerns last time, there are chairs in the lobby for anyone who would like to wait and join us for the reconvened portion of the council meeting. And I believe that we will ask Peg Access to also be joining us for the meeting reconvening. So with that, unless there's anything else from the council, we will adjourn. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for being patient with us. I will reconvene this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council. We have 3 items to address this evening in this portion of the meeting. The first item would be a resolution entering into the settlement of the lawsuit involving HLS LLC properties. I would entertain a resolution to do so.
I'll make that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Rod. Any discussion by the council? Roll call, please.
Fish.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Speedo.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Alpert.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. The next item will be a resolution entering into a letter of intent with American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation. I'll turn to Kent Mattson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a summary of the arrangement. American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation, Inc. has submitted a letter of intent to the City Council dated March 5th, 2018. The topic is a non-binding letter of intent to develop a portion of the Fergus Falls Regional Treatment Center campus. The arrangements would represent a non-binding conditional agreement to enter into development agreement and a purchase agreement for 2 parcels on the campus. American Covenant Senior Housing Foundation, Inc. is a Georgia nonprofit corporation that's seeking to redevelop these 2 portions of the campus. The real estate involved would be buildings number 23 and number 27, and approximately 2 acres around each of the buildings to be defined by survey and to be platted within the control of the city of Fergus Falls. The contemplated reuse is for 2 40 apartment units together with green space for recreation, picnic areas, walkways around the facility and maintenance area, and parking. The arrangements would be represented by separate purchase agreements and development agreements. The purchase price would be subject to approval by the MBF and Department of Administration, as is the requirement of any sales of the RTC campus. The arrangements would be represented by an exclusivity period of 18 months while the developer moves forward with their tax credit applications and development processes for each of the parcels. The arrangements would be separate in the sense that if one project got the green light and the other did not, they would move ahead with one. If both got the green light, they would move ahead with both. The application would be submitted by the developer on a date that's within 90 days after the execution of the purchase agreements and the development agreements. And as we discussed in prior occasions, the developers would be responsible for the cost of their development. The city would be responsible at this time for platting the 2 parcels to be defined. The letter of intent and the discussions under it can be terminated on 30 days notice. And again, any acquisition of the parcels would be subject to the bond restrictive covenants that are of record with the RTC campus. So the proposal again is a non-binding letter of intent to negotiate 2 development agreements and 2 purchase agreements to redevelop buildings number 23 and number 27 and a 2-acre parcel of land surrounding each of those parcels.
Thank you, Kent. Is there any questions of Kent? Rod?
Yeah, I would like to offer that.
Is the resolution offering that? Seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any question?
Just for people that aren't familiar with buildings 23 and 27, it's east and west attached. It would be the end buildings that have the 2 towers on them. So it'd be the 2 original standalone structures that are.
Yeah, one go. Maybe Ken, just talk a little bit about the fact that SHPO we would need support with SHPO to allow those buildings to stand alone from a tax credit perspective, because if they don't get the historic tax credits for those, then they wouldn't necessarily go ahead with the redevelopment.
Correct. The one of the primary arrangements that would be represented in the development agreement and in the purchase agreement that would be conditional is SHPO approving a arrangement of the parcels up there that would have those 2 parcels remain eligible for historic tax credit financings. And so as part of the process, within a reasonable period of time, probably within 6 months or so of entering into the purchase agreement, there would have to be that definitive plan developed with SHPO support to retain these 2 historic buildings on the campus.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 The resolution is approved. Final item to discuss is, in light of this development proposal, I'd be looking for a resolution to amend the current ask to the state legislature to accommodate for continuation of moving forward with deconstructions of portions of the campus while still maintaining a clear path forward for this development to maintain the historic tax credits, and to give the legislative committee the ability to work through some of those issues with the State Historical Preservation Office as well as the National Park Service. Thank you, Darren. Is that a resolution? Scott, thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call. Yes, yes.
I think just for the record, I should mention that this development group came forward as a result of the council making their last decision to seek the $8.9 million. When the press picked up that story, that's how this developer found out about this opportunity. This developer has not had any previous exposure to the campus or to Fergus Falls. So I think it's important to note that we likely wouldn't be having this conversation today if the city council hadn't taken a step forward on really looking at the future of this property and moving things forward. So I think that's important to know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Laura, you had a question.
Yeah.
Lori Mullen just had a question on whether, are they willing to work with other developers still on the other portions of the building then?
They've certainly given us every indication that they're willing to work with anyone on the development of the campus.
But that, and just so you know, that would be through the city, not directly through the developer. They've
Right.
expressed an interest to work through the city on those things.
Sure, but I mean, the other two
Yep.
buildings that are
They
attached. to the
express an
tower, so-
interest or
Willingness
Willingness
flexibility to do
okay.
that, yeah.
Thank you.
to work with anyone. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 That resolution is approved. If there's any other business to come before the council, not adjourned.